Well, hey, folks, welcome to the pre-show. Still, please don't flash the lights up there. Thank you. This is the pre-show. We're not doing anything yet other than prepping to go on air on the radio station. And just a little warm-up for everybody who's here. Welcome to the show. Appreciate your presence here. And I got that done and that done. And I am now going to link us up to the radio live stream. Boom. Just like that. Just like that. Make sure my sound is down. There we go. And how's everybody tonight? Welcome. Hey, Sarah Yusuf. Good to see you. Just making sure everything looks all right and plays all right and is lined up. Hey, Barbie D. Good to see you in the chat room as well. This will be an interesting show. There's that was my wife in the background. If you didn't hear that. What jumped at you? A jumping monster? She's taking the kids to bed, so we shouldn't have too many familial interludes tonight. Come here and say goodnight, Ma.
No, I'm not gonna tonight.
She's not gonna tonight.
Not gonna.
You know, I've just stopped trying to do anything. I'm at everybody else's whim and the way they feel at the moment.
Did you make my Huggy Wuggy pictures?
Yes, I brought them up and then I had to shut them down. So I'll do that later. Say hi and good night to everybody.
Hi, bye.
Bye. I love you. Good night. Thank you for coming over. And the sound was down. Sound's up. Grumpy Stack. Sound's been up since I started tonight, believe it or not. Let's see. I'm not muted. So I don't know what you were experiencing on your end, Doug. Perhaps your sound was down. So, hey, Matthew Sainsbury. People filing in. We got about a minute and 20 seconds left.
Hold on.
Until we go live. So, I suppose I don't have to fill every second with talking. Hey, Charlotte, which is Nancy. I've just revealed your secret identity. I don't know if you want that known, so I won't give your last name, but she's been a guest on this show many times. And this should be an interesting show tonight, even though it's not an exhaustive show on the topic. It is it's going to deal with some things. Superpowers, says Nancy. Iowa X, you should switch to red lighting. Like Joe during his big speech. Did he have red lights on? I didn't watch that. I had other things going on. So, gosh, I missed the Soul of America's speech tonight. Wasn't up for the propaganda. Here we go.
Intrepid radio program with Scotty Roberts. Intelligent talk.
Are you looking for a really awesome and amazing graphic designer? How about an illustrator or a photographer? This is Rainey Roberts, and I wanted to tell you how you can get my designer, illustrator husband, Scotty Roberts, to work for you on your project. Do you have an awesome self-published book but no cover, or even worse, a cover that really sucks? Do you need a kick-ass logo for your company or some f***ing awesome graphic designs for your ads or website? Then get in touch with my husband for the best f***ing awesome kick-ass design and illustration. He knows his stuff, and he's been at this for more years than I've been alive. Go to ScottAllenRoberts.com. That's Scott with 2 T's, ALANROBERTS.com to take a look at his online portfolio of work, or call 651-468-8115. Now go out and kick some ass with some kick-ass graphic design.
Hire my dad, so he can take me to Disneyland.
You're listening to the Intrepid radio program with Scotty Roberts. Intelligent talk.
Happy Thursday night, everyone. Welcome to my program, the Intrepid radio broadcast. I am Scotty Roberts, your host. Same as last night and every night before. There are no guest hosts on this show. When I take a day off, the show goes down. So we haven't taken a day off for a while, but welcome here. I appreciate your being here. I appreciate your giving me your time. You can listen to this show in its audio format over on the radio station. That's Odyssey Radio, ODYSY radio.com. Go on over there, see all the goodness that's Odyssey Radio. And you can watch the video simulcast so you can see my beautiful face while I speak to you. And that's over in 4 different places, 3 of them on Facebook, and 1 of them right here on my YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/Scotty Roberts. If you are not subscribed to this channel, please do so now. And if you like this broadcast, or even if you don't, give it a thumbs up. If you keep returning here, that helps the algorithms and helps me in my standing at YouTube, blah, 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 blah. And if you would like to do more, click on the little join button down below the window, and you can join this broadcast. It'll cost you anywhere from $1, I think, to $15, depending on what you want to do. And that just helps me as I keep things going, try to keep my shit together. So thank you for being here. Tonight, I have come to you. You know, it used to be radio. What was radio? It was audio. You could be naked. You could be wearing a guy could come on wearing a dress and his red pumps, and nobody would know the difference. I am sweaty. I'm cooled down from the sweat, but I'm sweaty yet swarthy and worn out. And we did a lot of moving of stuff today to the new place. This morning, while Rainey was working as lunch lady and the kids were all at school, with glorious, tranquil times around here, I was able to move a bunch of stuff out of the garage. And I took the big chest freezer, and I thought, I am not unloading that into boxes just so I can load it back up. So I got the big 2-wheeler, the deep one, and slid it on top of that. I don't know how much it weighed, but it was full. And I backed that up onto the trailer, drove it over, and took it in, and plus a bunch of stuff from the garage. So we did not do a blessing on the house, but we are planning on it. Gonna go burn some sage in there. We don't have anything really in the house yet. It's all in the garage so far. And we have the kids have moved some of their boxes over there, and we've got those stacked in their rooms. But mostly Rainey's been doing the cleaning of the physical kind. And she's right there. Say hi from a distance, everybody. She doesn't want to bless you with her presence tonight. like she blesses me with her presence. So you look pretty, though. You don't have to feel pretty. You look pretty. Remember, it's not how you feel; it's how you look, and you look marvelous. So, I feel a little crappy today, but I'm okay. I think I can't do. Some of it is, you think at 61 you can still do the things you did when you were 26, and to a certain degree I can. They just hurt more and make me tired faster. So, is this thing on? Says Professor Bauer. It is on, Professor Bauer. And one of your favorite people, too, I believe, if I do not put words in your mouth, is in the chat room as well tonight. So it's good to have you all here. Susie Q is still angry about Biden's speech. I did not listen to it. I did not have time. We were moving stuff. And if I did have time, I'm pretty sure my toenails would needed to have been clipped or something like that. If any of you are Biden supporters, I'm sorry, but I make no apologies for that. So anyway, there is something I wanted to bring up before we got into the alien thing. Some of you will think this smacks of politic, and it does to a certain extent. But do you remember the photo that was brought out showing some of the papers that they found at Mar-a-Lago, Trump's home and his place? And I wanted to show you this picture only because it's very telling about what this is really all about, without really getting into the deep politic of it. Let me load it in here so you can see it. I'm surprised I didn't do this ahead of time. Let's see. I think it's in here somewhere. Graphics. Hang on with me. I'm finding it. And let's see. Documents, I think I call it. Documents. Mar-a-Lago. Where is it? Should have loaded it up when I had it. Thank you to my children. So there it is. Top secret. Boom. Let's load this in. I want to show this to you, and I want to read a few words that were presented by Mark Levin, who is a conservative commentator on the radio and television, but he is also a former attorney and all of that. Hey, hold on a second, folks. Let's take a brief break so I can slam this door from my screaming children. All right. There we go. Sorry. I'm sorry, but I make no apologies again. It's okay for my children to wander into the show and say hi, but the lack of consideration when I'm broadcasting for my kids, we've talked about this before, is who's calling you? Yeah, because he can't walk down the steps. All right, so familial interlude out of the way. Here's a picture I want you to see. Remember this picture that hit the news? This is a picture that was taken by the FBI, showing the documents, the top secret classified documents they found at Trump's home at Mar-a-Lago. I can't say that right ever. Well, anyway, these are pictures of the documentation. Now, I want you to notice something. It's got the little sign saying Exhibits 2A. It's got the little ruler at the bottom and stuff like that. Now, this was the only leaked picture, and I found it very funny. Very funny. Not ha-ha funny, but funny that the leaked photo, out of all the photos they could have taken pictures of boxes, and on a case that they keep insisting they cannot talk about because it's classified and it's an ongoing current investigation. So told Garrett, the head of the DOJ. And and there's a Time magazine in the box too. Well, they spread all these out to now. Why do you suppose this was the photo that was leaked to the public? Because that's the photo we saw. And I wrote a little thing up this morning on my Facebook, but I'm going to read this to you. I want to get this out because I think it's important information that we know. And so by now you've probably seen this photo of the top secret documentations that spread all across the floor at Trump's Mar-a-Lago. And the intent of this photo, released by the Department of Justice, or the FBI, was to give the American public the impression of a haphazardly careless President Trump's mishandling of classified documents. Now, that's what most people think. I've already seen this picture. The first time I saw this picture was somebody on social media putting, and this is how Trump keeps his classified documents. So their intent worked. These documents discovered strewn on the floor of Trump's office, as the publicly released picture suggests, or were they found in a part of the property, not where they were staged for this photograph that's now being used to sway public sentiment prior to the midterm elections are coming up. So the DOJ has misstepped in this whole thing at Mar-a-Lago and Trump's paperwork all along the way, and is now staging photos like this one. It might be something that goes into their own private stuff in their case, whatever case they're building, but this is the one they released to the public. And the staging, according to Mark Levin, who is also an attorney, by the way, he's staging the sensitive documents for a photo to be eventually released to the public via a court filing is a grossly negligent use of classified documents, all by itself. That should itself be prosecuted under the Espionage Act. Now, Levin said, "It seems to me an argument should be made that the spreading highly classified documents on the floor with the covers of the documents, noting that the documents are indeed classified, and taking a photograph, even of the covers, purely for gratuitous public use, in other words, for no reasonable or legal purpose, it's grossly negligent use of classified documents, and the FBI should be held accountable under the Espionage Act." So specifically, Levin quoted the original 1917 version of the law, which still stands today, which corresponds to Section F of 18 U.S. Code 793. The law reads this, folks: "Whoever, being entrusted with or having lawful possession or control of any document, writing, code book, signal book, sketch, photograph, photographic negative, blueprint, plan, map, model, instrument, appliance, note, or information relating to the national defense, through gross negligence permits the same to be removed from its proper place of custody or delivered to anyone in violation of his trust, or to be lost, stolen, abstracted, or destroyed, or having knowledge that the same has been illegally removed from its proper place of custody, or delivered to anyone in violation of its trust, or lost, or stolen, abstracted, or destroyed, and fails to make prompt report of such loss, theft, abstraction, or destruction to his superior officer, shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 10 years or both." So the argument goes, the documents were strategically photographed and the picture released to drive the public narrative into a certain direction. There are other pictures of this. You don't even need to show a picture of it to say we found documents. So indeed, constitutional lawyer Jonathan Turley outright said that he believes the photo was clearly intended for public consumption. It's politics. It's political game playing, folks. And the photos of strewn documents on the floor was intentionally framed for public optics and discussion. And clearly, the court did not need the visual of a picture of documents with covers. It seems clearly intended for public consumption, added Turley. So just another prime example of the atrociously stupid attempt by Biden's DOJ to frame President Trump in the light they want the public to see before the midterm elections. This is your government, folks. And this is what's going on. If you cannot connect those dots, you're not thinking. So think better. That's the best way to approach all of this. So that's all I got to say. I'm going to take that picture out, remove, boom. Let's put my show banner back up. There you go. And we're going to move on into the topic of the night, because I already spent, about 20 minutes, 16 minutes on that topic. So there you go. Now let's talk about, think about it. That's all I'm telling you to do. I could do whole shows on this stuff. Remember, I don't do politics on this show, but sometimes the junk and the bullshit going on needs to be mentioned and talked about. Think. If I don't prompt you to think, my job is worthless here. Whether it's politics or religion or faith or aliens or whatever it might be. Bigfoot. So, tonight, the topic. Aliens in the Bible. Now, this particular show is not going to be an exhaustive attempt to cover this. We're going to cover it tonight. We'll probably cover it tomorrow night as well. It's not exhaustive, meaning I am not going into exegete all the passages that are there to break them all down and to parse them all for you. But I'm going to present some cases, if you will, that on one hand, if you are a person of faith who doesn't adhere to the possibility of extraterrestrial life, you could say, well, that's just a display of the majesty of God. And yet there are others. It seems that in the last 20 years, I have seen this especially. People of faith, people in church work and so on, pastors and researchers and so on have come up and said, look, it's obvious that there's something else there, that there's something out there. It was even the Pope. I don't know if you adhere to what the Pope says. I was going to look this up. This is my own book, The Rise and Fall of the Nephilim, but I have some quotes in here in chapter 1, which is entitled Science Almighty. And there's a great conflict I wrote about science versus religion versus science versus faith. And when you start looking at all of this, you have to ask, the definition of religion, first of all, is a set of beliefs concerning the cause, nature, and purpose of the universe, especially when considered as the creation of a superhuman agency or agencies, usually involving devotional and ritual observances, and often containing a code governing the conduct of human affairs with a strong emphasis on practice. It's also a specific fundamental set of beliefs and practices that are generally agreed upon by a number of persons, sects, or collectives. And it's the body of persons adhering to a particular set of beliefs and practices, a world council of religions, ecumenical movements, things like that. It's the life or state of a monk, nun, etc., to enter religion. The practice of religious beliefs, ritual observances of faith. Sometimes one believes in and follows devoutly a point or matter of ethics or conscience to make a religion of fitting practice, religious rites, strict faithfulness, devotion, a religion to one's own vows of faith. And so there's cause and nature that's recognized by the scientific community. And you've got the Church of Skeptic I wrote about here. And I'm looking for a particular quote from, it was from the Pope who said something about this. And by the way, Carl Sagan, the late Carl Sagan, in his book, The Demon Haunted World, he spoke of two things instilled in him from a very early age. Quote, he said, "My parents, in introducing me simultaneously to skepticism and to wonder, taught me the two uneasily cohabiting modes of thought that are central to the scientific method. Be scientific, be skeptical, be religious, be spiritual, but never lose touch with the wonder that is beyond our finite ability to quantify that which is unquantifiable." And so let's see if I've got this in here. It was something, I should have looked this up ahead of time, and I'm sorry I did not. I'm just looking to see if I've got it right here. There was something about the, and I'm not seeing it, where the Pope said something about, even the Pope, I think it was John Paul, might have been the guy before him, who was talking about, we realize that this stuff all of this stuff about extraterrestrials, he says, we realize that there's a big universe that God created. So I'm not Catholic, but I thought it was interesting that even the Pope came out with something around that. Cultural traditions from all around the world have myths and legends telling of angelic beings who descended to the earth and interacted with human beings, ushering in some sort of cataclysmic worldwide destruction of humanity that left scant few survivors. And in all of that, they mention all this connection and contact and intercourse, not in a sexual nature, not all the time anyway. You got the elders, or the elders, the watchers to thank for that, and the Nephilim and so on. But you have all of these beings that intercoursed with each other and communicated with each other. And and the same goes for, I can't find the quote from the Pope and from the head of NASA and things like that, but there are people of faith that have believed this. And so I wanted to, from the very beginning of this, read this verse from the Bible, and it's probably one of the most familiar passages about the possibility of UFOs and aliens in the Bible. Now, it's talking about God in here, of course, but listen to this passage. It's from the book of Ezekiel. And there's an old, and can I say the word Negro? Well, I just did. The old Negro spiritual. Ezekiel saw the wheel way up in the middle of the air. Ezekiel saw the wheel way in the middle of the air. It's a old gospel, Negro gospel song. And so this is what we're talking about here. In Ezekiel chapter 1, it says this: in my 30th year, in the 4th month on the 5th day, while I was among the exiles by the Kibar River, the heavens were opened and I saw visions of God. So the first thing you see here, the heavens were opened. The moo, Professor Bauer. I'm going to rub that in every chance I get. The moo, the heavens, the firmament was opened, and he saw visions of God. And on the 5th of the month, it was the 5th year of the exile of King Jehoiakim. The word of the Lord came to Ezekiel the priest, the son of Buzi, by the river Kibar, in the land of the Babylonians. There the hand of the Lord was on him. And now this took place with Ezekiel. He was prophesying during the Babylonian captivity, when they were all still living in Babylon, before they were returned to the land of Israel. Ezekiel goes on and he says, I looked. Now listen to the words of this. I looked and I saw a windstorm coming out of the north. From the north. A windstorm. An immense cloud with flashing lightning and surrounded by brilliant light. The center of the fire looked like glowing metal, and in the fire was what looked like 4 living creatures. I want to share this image with you that is the image that I used in the graphic for tonight's show. Let me find it here. Let's put in Ezekiel. Again, I didn't get a chance to preload these into the show, so my apologies. So that's loading. This is the image. This is an artist's conception of what Ezekiel may have seen in his vision. Was it a vision? Or was it something he actually saw? Boom, here it is. Let's get it called in here. There you go. And I'm going to take this banner down so you can see that just a little better. So now take a look at that as I read this passage to you. It goes on, it says this: the center of the fire looked like glowing metal, and in the fire was what looked like 4 living creatures. In appearance, their form was human, but each of them had 4 faces and 4 wings. Their legs were straight. Their feet were like those of a calf and gleamed like burnished bronze. Under their wings on the 4 sides, they had human hands. All 4 of them had faces and wings, and the wings of one touched the wings of the other. Each one went straight ahead. They did not turn as they moved. Their faces looked like this. Each of the four had the face of a human being, and on the right side, each had the face of a lion, and on the left, the face of an ox. Each also had the face of an eagle. Such were their faces. They had 2 wings spreading out upward, each wing touching that of the creature on either side, and each had 2 other wings covering its body. Each one went straight ahead, wherever the spirit would go, and they would go without turning as they went. The appearance of the living creature was like burning coals of fire, or like torches. Fire moved back and forth among the creatures. It was bright, and lightning flashed out of it. The creatures sped back and forth like flashes of lightning. As I looked at the creatures, I saw a wheel on the ground beside each creature, with its 4 faces. This was the appearance and structure of the wheels. They sparkled like topaz, and all 4 looked alike. Each appeared to be made of a wheel intersecting a wheel. As they moved, they would go in any one of 4 directions. The creatures faced the wheels. They did not change direction as the creatures went. Their rims were high and awesome, and all 4 rims were full of eyes all around. When the living creatures moved, the wheels beside them moved. And when the living creatures rose from the ground, the wheels also rose. Whenever the spirit would go, they would go, and the wheels would rise along with them, because the spirit of the living creature was in the wheels. And when the creatures moved, they also moved. When the creatures stood still, they also stood still. And when the creatures rose from the ground, the wheels rose along with them, because the spirit of the living creature was in the wheels. And spread out above the heads of the living creatures was what looked something like a vault, sparkling like crystal and awesome. Under the vault, their wings were stretched out one toward the other, and each had 2 wings covering its body. When the creatures moved, I heard the sound of their wings, like the roar of rushing waters, like the voice of the Almighty, like the tumult of an army. When they stood still, they lowered their wings. Then there came a voice from above the vault over the heads as they stood with lowered wings. Above the vault over their heads was what looked like a throne of lapis lazuli, and high above on the throne was a figure like that of a man. I saw that from what appeared to be his waist up, he looked like glowing metal, as if full of fire. And that from there down he looked like fire. Brilliant light surrounded him, like the appearance of a rainbow in the clouds on a rainy day. So was the radiance around him. This was the appearance of the likeness of the glory of the Lord. When I saw it, I fell face down, and I heard the voice of one speaking. He says, now that is one of the accounts that you will find in Scripture that talks about something that could or could not be. And this is an artist rendition here, of course, and it's not a perfect rendition. I don't see the wings touching the wings of the ones all to each other and all the way around. And I've seen other depictions of this art that are, frankly, even more fantastical than what you might see here. So does that sound like a craft to you? There's no way to prove it was a craft, but there are people who've written whole books on this. There was a scientific book that was written about this craft, and I do not have that in front of me, the name of the guy in front of me, and I'll find that for tomorrow night. I'll have that. I just happen to remember that off the top of my head, that I had not included that in my notes here for today. But there are other things. Consider that image. And I'm going to tell you, what does the Bible say about aliens? And I've got a bunch of verses here, but the problem with looking this stuff up is that alien didn't always mean extraterrestrial. Alien could have meant somebody coming from a foreign land. It could have been like we have aliens, our illegal aliens. They're not extraterrestrials. Well, certainly not all of them. So you've got this depiction by Ezekiel 1. And Ezekiel also said, and I'll mention this again, as I looked, behold, a stormy wind came out of the north, and a great cloud with brightness around it, and fire flashing forth continually. and in the midst of the fire, as it were, gleaming metal. That's a little different version. Then Isaiah 13:5 says, they come from a distant land, from the end of the heavens, the Lord and the weapons of his indignation to destroy the whole land. Now, I don't have the whole context of that passage there, but Isaiah is talking about those that would come as destroyers. They come from a distant land, from the ends of the heavens, he says. Now, is he talking about where the firmament, meets the ground, the horizon? They come from the distant horizons? Or is he speaking of something that comes extraterrestrially? Probably one of the best set of verses that we have, and probably the most well-studied, researched, and gone over and over and over again, is the account of the Nephilim in Genesis 6, verses 1 through 4, where it talks about, here, let me just read it for you directly, because I think that will be probably the best way to put it. Genesis 6, I'm going to look up here. And it starts like this, verses 1 through 4. When human beings began to increase in number on the earth, and daughters were born to them, the sons of God saw that the daughters of humans were beautiful, and they married any of them they chose. By the way, sons of God here, which I've talked about many times on the show in different contexts, in the original Hebrew language, as far back as we can take the original texts. In the Hebrew, the sons of God are the Bnei Ha-Elohim, the sons of the God of many gods, it's called. So this, who were also known as the Watchers, those who were set to, literally in orbit to watch the planet and watch over humanity and God's creation on this planet. Orbiting how? Doesn't say. But they saw the daughters of humans were beautiful, and they married any of them they chose. Then the Lord said, my spirit will not contend with humans forever, for they're mortal, and their days will be 120 years. And the Nephilim were on the earth in those days. And also afterward, when the sons of God, or the Bnei Ha-Elohim, went to the daughters of humans and had children by them, they were the heroes of old and the men of renown. Then the Lord God saw how great the wickedness of the human race had become on the earth, and that every inclination of the thoughts and of the human heart was only evil all the time. And the Lord regretted that he had made human beings on the earth, and his heart was deeply troubled. So the Lord said, I will wipe them from the face of the earth, the human race I have created, and with them the animals, the birds, and the creatures that move along the ground, for I regret that I have made them. But Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. And it goes right into the account of Noah and the flood. And of course, as we know by previous studies of this, that it's not the wickedness of human beings, but the wickedness imbued into human beings by this hybrid race that was created. And there are other sources for that, but that's not the topic that we're talking about tonight. Sarah Yusuf says the Watchers had emotional desires. It says they did. Is emotional desire necessary to appreciate beauty? Can you be thoroughly... Is there in truth no beauty? Asked Spock in the original Star Trek, who was supposed to be totally logical, but we found out later he still had emotion that he suppressed. Philip Blair says Hercules was a hybrid. Yeah, he was. And so Philip Blair says Madonna of the Flying Saucer, also known as the Madonna of the UFOs, is my favorite religious painting from the Renaissance. It's housed in the old city hall in Florence, Italy, in the Hall of Hercules. That's the picture you've seen of the Madonna, and in the background, the little, what looks like a UFO in the sky in the background. I'm sure there are explanations for that from medieval times, but that is, of course, one of the paintings that exists. And so what you've got here in Genesis 6 is, again, you've got beings, and it is stated much more clearly in the book of Enoch, the apocryphal book, the pseudepigraphal book meaning pseudepigraphal, because it's written about Enoch as if Enoch is writing portions of it. It was written much later than the life of Enoch. They say, well, it only dates back to the 4th century BCE. Well, that's because we find it in the Septuagint, along with the rest of the Old Testament, the Greek version of the Old Testament. But the book hails back, just like the other books of the Old Testament, hail back much further than that. And the same with Enoch. It's supposed to be taking place, it says, in the time of Jared and at Mount Armon, or Mount Hermon, in the north of Israel, the 3-sloped mountain that separates the border between Israel and Lebanon today. So you've got these mentions of these people in Scripture, or these not people necessarily. I've got a fly that's buzzing my face. Sorry about that. But these encounters, these descriptions in the Old Testament. So going back to some of these verses, Isaiah 60 verse 8 says, "Who are these that fly like a cloud and like doves in their windows?" Now, these are just snippets of verses, so we're losing the context without looking up the whole passage. But who are these that fly like clouds and like doves at your window? Perhaps like the UFO in the Madonna painting. Isaiah 45:12. This is God speaking. "I made the earth and created man on it. It was my hands that stretched out the heavens, and I command all the host of the heavens." It's not specifically talking about angels or demons there. "When man began to multiply on the face of the land," I just read this one, Genesis 6:1 through 22. It's got the whole passage there about the flood. Ephesians 6:12 in the New Testament says, "For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the cosmic powers over this present darkness, against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly places." So is that a verse that's talking about extraterrestrials, and the extraterrestrials are all evil forces planted against us? I know some scientists today that believe that if we are ever visited by alien life, that they're going to be like conquistadors, not the benevolent, "Let us give you all our knowledge." Nanu, nanu. And so, but we don't know. Is the Book of Enoch really readily available in English? It is, Roy Palvido. You can just look it up. Go to Amazon, look up the Book of Enoch. You can find it. You can find it with commentary. You can find just the straight verses. It is one of the apocryphal books. It is in the what's the section of the Bible? It's in the Catholic Bible. They still have them. The verses that are, the books that were taken out, but still put in because there was some division on whether they should appear there or not. Maybe it is the apocryphal books. Enoch is one of those books. A couple of those books, worth looking into, worth reading. I'm supposed to be working on a book about the Book of Enoch for my publisher, New Page Books, which is now wholly owned by Weiser, Red Wheel Weiser Books. So apocryphal, yes, that's the word. Sarah, sorry about that. The apocryphal books. Is that the right word? It's the books that are in the middle. Books of Maccabees, the books of Enoch, and there are different books in there that you can still find in the Catholic Bible, which are very interesting. I remember the first time I picked up a Catholic Bible, I thought, "Oh, what are these books? I never learned about these." It's before I learned about any of those books. The apocryphal books. I think that's the word for it, unless I'm just brain farting on it. So back to all these verses. You got tons of verses in the Bible that talk about what can seem to be extraterrestrials. Revelation 9, 7 through 11. "In appearance, the locusts were like horses prepared for battle. On their heads were what looked like crowns of gold. Their faces were like human faces, their hair like women's hair, and their teeth like lions' teeth." We talked about this last week at some point. "They had breastplates like breastplates of iron, and the noise of their wings was like the noise of many chariots with horses rushing into battle. Much like Ezekiel's description of the noise of the four wheels. They have tails and stings like scorpions, and their power to hurt people for 5 months is in their tails. They have as king over them the angel of the bottomless pit. And his name in Hebrew is Abaddon, and in Greek he is called Apollyon. Nehemiah says, "You are the Lord, you alone. You have made heaven, the heaven of heavens, with all their host, the earth and all that is on it, the seas and all that is in them, and you preserve all of them, and the host of heaven worships you." Exodus 23, "You shall not oppress a sojourner. You know the heart of a sojourner, for you were sojourners in the land of Egypt." Now, is that speaking to humans or extraterrestrial beings? And my whole point with the Watchers in the Genesis 6 passage was that they are extraterrestrial beings, not of this earth, that came down and mingled with the daughters of women, married them, loved them. Aramaic, says Sean Stroik. Hebrew is the word, if I know what you're talking about there. Thunda thunda, says Sarah Yusuf, Imagine Dragons. So do not neglect to show hospitality. There shall be one law for the native and for the stranger who sojourns among you. And all of these passages go on. Deuteronomy, "And beware lest you raise your eyes to heaven, and when you see the sun and the moon and the stars, all the host of heaven, you be drawn away and bow down to them and serve them, things that the Lord your God has allotted to all the peoples under the whole heaven." In the beginning, Genesis 1:1, God created the heavens and the earth. God, if you look at those statements in Hebrew, it's an empirical statement. It's a finished, complete statement, linguistically. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Period. Boom. Creation was done. Next verse says, "And the earth was without form and void. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters and said, let there be light." What else is out there is a big question. And a lot of the verses in the Bible that people pluck out and want to talk about aliens is not necessarily about extraterrestrial aliens, but about aliens in the land, sojourners, and so on. But could those also be extraterrestrial? That is a good question. In Genesis 1, God said, "Let there be lights in the expanse of the heavens to separate the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons, and for days and years, and let them be lights in the expanse of the heavens to give light upon the earth." And it was so. Ezekiel 1:14 again, "The living creatures darted to and fro like the appearance of a flash of lightning." And on and on and on it goes with these types of verses. Now, there's some other things that I want to look at as well about what the Bible says about alien life. Let's see here. I've got something here that I think would be very... Some of this we covered last night. About would meeting aliens change our understanding of the incarnation? Would meeting aliens change our understanding of the cross and the work of the cross? Aliens are not fallen and thus have no need for redemption. It was C.S. Lewis in his space trilogy, "The intelligent people on Mars and Venus know God, but have not succumbed to sin or the sin nature." That was C.S. Lewis, who was a Christian apologetic writer in some of his novels and so on. There's other views that say aliens are fallen. They have their own relationship with God that's different from ours. Aliens are fallen but included in Christ's redemptive work on earth, is what some people say. Aliens are fallen, but Christ's incarnation and redemptive work are repeated on their own worlds. I've heard that put forward before. Do you remember the Star Trek episode which was supposed to be which they were on a planet, and they find that the first people they encounter there are slaves, and those slaves were slaves to a Roman Empire type of a situation. They had gladiatorial games that were televised and things like this, and it was as if the Roman Empire continued on. The episode was called Bread and Circuses. Very good episode. One of the really great old original Star Trek episodes. And do you remember at the end of that episode, they're all sitting on the bridge like they did, kind of recounting the exploit or the adventure they had just gone through? And somebody said it was either Spock or it was Kirk that said, it was strange, though, with all the parallels to ancient Rome on this planet that we have found, the one that throws me is that they kept talking about worshiping the sun. And we don't know of any sun worshipers. And remember, it was Uhura who was in the background at the communication station. She turned and she said, "Oh, I think you've got that all wrong." I don't remember the exact quote. She says, "They're not talking about the sun in the sky. They're talking about the Son of God," which was a very unique bit of scripting on the original Star Trek. And then, of course, when she said that, that was the final line of the show, and the music cues up, and everybody looks very contemplative of that, and you see the ship soaring back out into the galaxy. Who Mourns for Adonis was a good episode of Matthew Sainsbury. Greek Gods. But look for that one. Look for the episode. You can look it up online. It might be just worth the 42 and a half minutes it takes to watch it without commercials. The original Star Trek episode, Bread and Circuses, was fun. Now, that does nothing to establish aliens in the Bible or extraterrestrial life in the Bible. We're going to get more into that, even more tomorrow night. We're already at 52 minutes past the hour because I took that 16-minute foray into politics. Ooh, dreaded politics. We're all part of this country. Well, most of us. So many. There's a lot of you that don't live in the United States and aren't United States citizens. But I think that's important stuff for us to mention and talk about and think about at the beginning of the show. So the Bible is full. I remember, and this is more commentary than it is finding an exact verse, but do you remember it talks about how in the end times, I think it's in the book of Mark, it talks about how in the end times it will be as it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be at the time of the coming of the Son of Man. And this was Jesus who said this, I do believe. So he's talking about the second advent of the Son of Man, the Christ, when he would come back at like Armageddon in the end times, eschatology, end times prophecy. As it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be at the time of the coming of the Son of Man. Well, what was happening in the days of Noah that we just read in Genesis 6? The Bene Ha-Elohim, the sons of God, the watchers, descended to the earth and chose women, any of them that they loved, and married them and had offspring with them. What are all the stories we've heard for 30 plus years about alien abductions, impregnations of women who, and not just wacky women who say, "Yes, and this reptilian appeared out of my closet every midnight on every Thursday, and we had glorious sex." We're not talking about needy people who need something like that in their lives to make themselves feel fulfilled. But we're talking about some of them very qualified, some of them very credible people who have given accounts, experiencer accounts of experiencing extraterrestrials, of impregnations, and that type of thing. Now, go back to the verse. As it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be at the time of the coming of the Son of Man. What happened in the days of Noah? You had the Elohim descending to the earth and intermingling with women and having children by them. Matthew Sainsbury brings up Betty and Barney Hill, very dramatic for an interracial couple, very dramatic for any couple. It was just the fact they were interracial at the time, when this happened in the 50s, that it was questioned so much. So you know what? Everybody in Radio Land listening over on Odyssey Radio, we got to get out of here. And I'm sorry that we got to leave now, but at the same time, you can join us over in the chat room for the Captain's Cabin, where we'll continue a little bit of this conversation, hopefully with Dr. Bauer, with Sarah, with Uncle Dave if he's around. I don't know how he's feeling, but you know what? Just want you all over there, as the Vulcans would say, live long and prosper. And is there in truth no beauty?
Join us every weeknight at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, 10 p.m. Eastern. The Intrepid Radio Program, a Scotty Roberts Productions broadcast.
Are you looking for a really awesome and amazing graphic designer? How about an illustrator or a photographer? This is Rainey Roberts, and I wanted to tell you how you can get my designer, illustrator husband, Scotty Roberts, to work for you on your project. Do you have an awesome self-published book but no cover, or even worse, a cover that really sucks? Do you need a kick-ass logo for your company or some f***ing awesome graphic designs for your ads or website? Then get in touch with my husband for the best f***ing awesome kick-ass design and illustration. He knows his stuff, and he's been at this for more years than I've been alive. Go to ScottAllenRoberts.com. That's Scott with 2 T's, ALANROBERTS.com to take a look at his online portfolio of work, or call 651-468-8115. Now go out and kick some ass with some kick-ass graphic design.
Hire my dad so he can take me to Disneyland.
Welcome to the Captain's Cabin, everyone. Welcome, ahoy. Let's set out to sea. As you hear a lot from me lately, I'm tired out these days. A lot going on. As you can see by my sweaty, I'm not sweaty anymore. I've cooled down in the air conditioning. But my sweaty, formerly sweaty, yet still swarthy self. A little tired out today, muscularly. And for those of you, since we're off the radio, and I can share this with the audience that is here in our personal chat room over on the YouTube and other places, I got a doctor's appointment tomorrow. I'm going to check out a couple of things. I've been very dizzy lately. I mentioned this last night. A lot of vertigo. Now, I don't know if that's hangover from the COVID of 4 weeks ago, almost 5 weeks ago. Or if it's because it's different. It's different than I've ever experienced before. I can do things like, okay, now maybe they say the biggest killer of men is that they think at age 55 to 60, they can still do things like they did when they were 20. I can still do that. I'm a man. I'm a man's man. Well, today when I was alone, I hauled a bunch of stuff over to the new house, and I didn't want to empty the big box freezer, and so I put it on the big, wide, deep two-wheeler, tipped it up, and hauled it full over to the new house, and loaded up a bunch of stuff. And by the time I was done, I was like, phew. And the same thing happened the last couple of days is I get really dizzy and I feel absolutely fatigued, like I've got no juice left. Now, I've never felt that before. So I don't know if that has anything to do with just the hangover from COVID, or if it's just the weirdness of being older. I don't know what it is. So I'm going to go. It was severe enough today that I just called and said, I want to come in and have somebody check this out. And they were asking me all kinds of questions about stroke stuff. And I'm like, I don't think I'm stroking out. I don't have any numbness. I don't have any no other sensations. It's all up in here. It's this severe vertigo type, which I've never had before either. So it's strange. So maybe you need new glasses. Take them with. That's the funny thing. I broke my glasses, and I've been wearing this old pair when I drive, and I don't really need them all that much. So I put these on, and I got to go get a new pair of glasses. This is my older prescription. Still bifocals, though. Still my old man bifocals. And I've got vampires, says Philip Blair. Yeah, that might be it. Check my neck. Any bite marks? So, yeah, draining my energy. So, yeah, it's kind of crazy. So that's personal stuff for my audience. You guys have been following me enough years. You've actually, a lot of my audience has watched me age. You've been with me for so long. I've been doing one form of we launched, we were doing radio in 2000 was when I started doing paranormal radio with an old friend of mine out of Kansas City or Oklahoma City. And we were on KOMA in Oklahoma City. And I was up here, of course, in the St. Paul area of Minnesota. And so I've had different incarnations of this radio show. We started Intrepid Radio in and around, when did I start Intrepid Magazine? 2010, I started Intrepid Magazine. 2011. So we've had Intrepid Radio since 2011. So that's been 11 years with a few months on and off where we were off air for a while. So most of you who've been around for the long haul, you know me. And by the way, my glasses, I can't use up close. I need where are the up close ones? Oh, they're upstairs. So I don't wear my glasses since I broke them. And I do just fine. And so you might be onto something there, Philip. Or who said something about glasses? Anyway, blah, blah, blah. Going off on a topic not to go off. And I got Sarah hanging in the wings here. Let's bring her in. Hey, Sarah, how you doing tonight?
Hey, Scotty. It's
Good to
been,
see you.
as usual, a long day. But
What's your day like? Since I've talked about my personal crap, what's your day like?
well, before we move on to that, you may want to just keep an eye on your blood pressure if you have a cuff.
I do take blood pressure meds. I'm a walking medicine chest these days.
Right.
Since
it
the heart
could be, with the additional, with the moving, that's putting in extra exercise. And it could be multiple factors. Huh?
It might be. I've been, since the COVID thing, I've been dizzy. Now, let me qualify this. I've been a little dizzy in the head, lightheaded, I called it, for the last year and a half or more. I just constantly feel this lightheadedness.
It could be something else aside from the COVID. It is a possibility that could be a long-term symptom, but with your history, especially, with the
and it's mild. It was always
diabetes.
mild.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's where I would wake up in the morning and still feel tired, and it was lightheadedness and so on. And I feel it even now. I move my head; it's like motion sickness in the back of my head.
So that could be due to high sugar. Due to high sugar overnight. The overnights, they tend to be for some people tend to be higher. If you if you're if you're eligible, try to get one of those continuous glucose monitoring systems, like Freestyle Libre.
I've been looking into that.
Yeah.
My doc wanted me on one of those, and our insurance didn't cover the monitor.
Yeah.
It covered the monitor, but it didn't cover any of the supplies for it. I'd have to, instead of having it out of my insurance, where it's a
Yeah, well, when you're
dramatic
dealing with the
discount.
insurance, they make it really, really tough. Like the criteria that the doctors have to document. They have to document like 5-6 different things, like that you're on insulin non-term, that you're pricking your fingers more than 4 times a day, all that
Right.
stuff. Which most, on average, most
Which I
people don't.
don't.
I mean, they usually do it, with meals. So
I had
yeah,
a big
there's a
drop
lot of
today.
hoops. Yeah. But there are some companies that help assist with getting all that done, which I'm sure your doctor's office know. They probably didn't tell you, but there's
This might come up tomorrow when I talk
right.
to the doctor.
But I mean, but it sounds like they'll definitely try to do some blood work and see what's going on.
Yeah.
So just be prepared.
I do, Grumpy Stack. I do know what to do. That's in the diabetic realm. I had a low blood sugar today. I could feel it. I actually, after I took that big load over, I got back to the house. I picked up Rainey at 2:00 from work, and I said, you know what? I said, I got to lay down. And I was literally walking up the stairs to go to the bedroom. I was like, I am not going to make it up the stairway.
Yeah.
Some of that was muscles. You use muscles you don't
No,
use
but
every day.
it really messes
But
with your head. But I
I
mean,
was messed
even
up.
with the high and low blood sugars, it depends when you're peaking as well.
Right. Well, I laid down and I fell asleep. I dozed off, and then I felt sweaty, and I always get this cold sweat
Yeah.
and a little shaky. And I went,
Mhm.
my blood sugar just dropped, and it woke me up. And when it happens to me at night, it always wakes me up.
Well,
So
I mean,
got up and-
it can also be hyperglycemia, not just hypoglycemia. I mean, because
Sure.
it can be either of the extremes. It could be that depending on what you ate, what your exercise was right before, all that, it could be you were spiking up or spiking down, because with exercise,
I was at
doctors always harping on the
67.
exercise. So
My blood sugar was at 67. I just sat up.
oh
and I
no,
took
yeah,
my blood right
that's hypo. Yeah.
So yeah, that's the other direction.
Yeah.
So Professor Bauer says a colonoscopy will find what ails you. It'll find a lot of other stuff too, Professor.
Well, if you get a
So-
colonoscopy, you're covered for 10 years. You don't have to get another one for 10 years, as opposed to doing like Cologuard, you would have to do every 3 years. So
They were supposed to do one in the spring for me, but then in the spring, I also had, a few months ago, I had that minor heart attack again. That's
Yeah.
when they found that the stent they had put in at the time of the surgery
Mhm.
was too small. He goes, I found out what you had, new cardiologist. I found out what you, I'm laying on the table. He's got his coat hanger with the camera on it, shoved from my crotch all the way up to my heart.
Excuse
And
me.
it's on the big screen, and I'm laying there on the table, and he goes, look at this. And he kind of tips the screen a little bit. And he goes, you see that? He said, 5 years ago when they did your heart surgery, they put in the wrong kind of stent. It's too small. And he says, so today I'm going to put in a little bigger one, see if we can do that without going surgery on you. And he says, if we have to do this again, we'll probably have to go in surgically. Because
Yeah.
they've done this 4 times now. And the only reason I couldn't figure out why it was collapsing, it wasn't so much collapsing. It would collapse, but it was also clog up really fast because it's too small.
Yeah.
And
like a
so he
pipe.
put in a
Yeah.
bigger one, and,
Mhm.
et cetera.
Yeah.
So Amanda Berry, what did she just say here that I thought was very healthy gut and butt is a healthy you. So there you go. So regular enema is the best thing you can do. Well, there you go.
High fiber diet. I mean,
High fiber diet would work too, yeah, I guess.
yeah.
Thank you, Amanda Berry, for that glorious advice. An enema a week. Or is it daily? So, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So
on to
and
better topics.
yeah.
Unless you got more to say on that, that's fine.
Right. But so I did, try to do a little bit of looking into it before the show, and I haven't looked, like you said, I haven't done like a deep dive into it, but what I could find
Mhm.
were basically 2 references, and even those are kind of iffy, sketchy, it's all the
Yeah.
matter of interpretation. So I have right now, I have three things, to present. So number one. So in the first Surah Fatiha, the first surah in there, the second line, where did it go? It said, all praise is for Allah, Lord of all worlds. So we can consider that, depending on the definition of worlds, that could mean, not just Earth. It could references planets, universes, dimensions. It can refer to certain people's, life all in itself. I mean, it's a really broad.
It's very broad. That's the problem.
Yeah. So it's as far as the references on what potential in terms of life. I mean, life, it could mean extraterrestrial life, or not just, what we believe in the terrestrial. And then the second one is Surah Ashura. That's 42:29, verse 29. And among his signs is the creation of the heavens and the earth, and all living beings he dispersed throughout both. And he is most capable of bringing all together whenever he wills.
And
So,
that dispersed throughout both is
means the heavens and
it's
the earth.
general enough, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
And
so,
it makes
I
you
mean,
ask the question.
and there's certain other passages and, certain what do you call it? I can't say that word. Exegesis or
Exegeting, yes.
yeah, right.
The exegetes of scripture.
Right, exegeting of scripture, saying that there are 7 heavens or 7 multiple levels or all that. So basically, what is saying is the full penetration of life wherever God wants it. There's whether it's and that's sort of semi reinforced with the fact that you have the realm of the unseen with the jinn. So that could be considered a different world than ours. So, but I mean, it's like with most holy books, it's vague for a reason, so it withstands the test of time.
That's it. Vague for a reason, and we've got to keep in mind too that one really important factor about both the Bible and the Quran is that we've got to keep in mind that even though they were meant to be timely, unless they were time travelers writing these and they could see the future, which they could not, they were writing in a context that their contextual audience would have understood.
Yeah.
And so it's all, even though there are enduring principles, you can have enduring principles in both of those books, enduring principles of love, of honor, of whatever it might be, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Those aren't usually passages where you have to question things like the existence of an extraterrestrial or something. So would that have been something just unrevealed, therefore not added in the context? It was not something that was necessary to the books. Right. And to the audience reading them. Right. So audience being just a quick word for the reader, whoever's reading it.
So interestingly enough, the third piece that I have is not actually from the Quran, but it's from an article. The author has a weird username because I pulled it off the internet, so I don't know who it's by. But I just want to read this little
please do.
paragraph. Yeah, it's short. So he says,
"It's all right.
Life is too short and too valuable, so it must be spent on more immediate and more important concerns. Carelessly delving into the theme of extraterrestrial life could be an intellectual and spiritual trap. Still, if any aspect of extraterrestrial life suddenly becomes integral to those immediate and critical concerns of people dealing with it in the light of the revealed guidance and wisdom, should not be a problem. If there is anything or nothing, Islam is fine with it either way. In either case, the journey of life goes on, and at the end, which awaits Jannah, paradise, or Jahannam, hell, people should always be able to distinguish between a highway and a sidewalk." So basically, from my understanding of what he's saying, that this, we shouldn't be worrying about extraterrestrial life. We should be worried what's in front of us now in the current present, what we have to do to move on into the next life. We're all on our own journey. So then, rather than worrying on what's going there, we got to worry what's in front of us, and it should that come to in front of us, the divine or God will provide us with the means and the wherewithal to deal with it. So
there it is.
yeah.
And so when I look at the scripture, the Hebrew scripture, the Judeo-Christian
Right.
scripture, I see things that come across in that same kind of generalized fashion
Mhm.
that give you an idea that there might have been something else out there. Yet at the same time, is not. It's just the idea. It's not specific. And the language being used could just be one that's like when an example to use when God refers to himself as Elohim in the Hebrew Bible. Elohim, El being the name of God, Him being a specifically plural suffix placed on a Hebrew word linguistically to
Right.
pluralize the word.
Mhm.
So God speaks of himself in the plural. Is that him like, Queen Elizabeth I or the second even of England saying,
The royal
"We
we.
are not happy with what you have done
We
to
are not
us."
amused, right?
Yes. Is it the royal plural? According to some Hebrew scholars, Jewish scholars, rabbinic scholars, they've said, well, the Elohim is not speaking of plurality of gods. It's speaking of the plurality, the multitude of majesties of God. And I said, well, why didn't you just say that then? Why didn't you say God, El, who is filled with multiplicity of majesty and power and so on? It doesn't. It calls him Elohim, a plural term. And so it's that same thing when it comes to the alien question or extraterrestrial question. Is God making reference by saying, and the heavens and those who dwell in it? Is he referring to the heavenly host of angels? Different powers? What are the things we don't know about in biblical terminology that inhabit the heavens, and yet we have no idea what the writer was even talking about?
Everything. We don't know anything.
Yeah, we
I
don't
mean,
know.
it's like, yeah, it's like, when you're focusing on a certain thing, like I could have a cell phone in my hand. I don't need to know the intricacies and the circuits
Right.
and all that to know how to use it,
Exactly.
to get the use out of it. So it's, it's that saying, you can't see the forest for the trees. What are we choosing to focus on? And I think in this way, saying, don't focus on one little thing. There's a whole lot more going on. I mean, I'm telling you, it's like trying to do a redirection. This is what I want you to do. You kind of go do it or not. And then if you choose whatever you choose, that's where you end up, on whatever side. So, yeah.
I just want to make a comment on something Field Guy said, since we were talking about hearts and stuff. He said, for anyone who cares, I had a pulse rate last week of 68. That's low.
Yeah. Yeah, really low.
And that's really low. And I hope you're doing
was
okay,
he sitting
Fieldy.
or standing? I mean, it depends. Is he sitting, standing?
Yeah,
Was it
sitting,
after
standing, or doing what?
Yeah.
I think I have a low pulse rate, he said. That's when I went into the doc sometime in the last few months.
Mhm.
And she said, your heart rate's at 50 right now. And she said, you just walked in here 10 minutes ago.
Yeah. No.
And so she said, that seems really low. But they've also got me on some kind of, I don't know what is that what the beta blocker is, where it slows down your heartbeat. And so she said, cut those in half. The ones you got, cut them in half for your daily dose. And so I've done that. I've thought of just eradicating them altogether. But then,
well, I mean, it's best to do what the doctor says, because, you can't just suddenly stop a medication. And if it's still not working when it's being cut in half, then she may, take it off after that. You have to taper it off. So
right.
Yeah.
And Sean Stroik, I'll tell you, I'm not very fit. I am woefully out of shape. I still have a pretty good power base. I've had strength my whole life. I've been a strong person. I've been in shape in my younger days. I'm just not now.
Yeah, fitness is also, it's not a matter of just, if you have a belly pouch,
Right.
or whatnot, or if you have a six pack, that you can still be considered out of shape.
So
I
can you
mean,
be
most
fit and
clinically
still
they
have man
depended on
boobs?
your BMI. So normal range of BMI is between 18.5 and 25. Anything over 25 is considered overweight. 35 with a comorbidity like you would be considered morbidly obese. So
Right.
so
So
depending on what your BMI
25
is.
to 30 overweight, you're saying?
It's just
Over your
overweight.
target?
Yeah. I mean,
My
your target
target's
should be
all
under
wacky
25.
anyway. They say a guy like me, my height,
Yeah, you
which
can calculate out with height and weight. There's little things on the internet.
I was 6 feet. I'm now 5'11". But 5'11", my age, and all of that, I'm supposed to weigh 185 pounds by the charts. I got to tell you, it might be 186. I don't know what it is exactly. Right around that. I am right now, I'm presently 258 pounds.
Oh,
Now, I have also, but I'm not a wad of wobbling fat walking around either. I have a huge frame.
yeah.
And,
There's muscle mass. The
and there's
muscles are
muscle
heavy
mass.
too.
There's old muscle mass. I got man boobs, which I never had before in my life. So those have more weight, I'm sure. But all of that to say, I have never been within the scale. When I was 6 foot and 205 pounds, I was so much lean muscle mass and so skinny about the time I met Rainey that, that was 50 pounds ago. So I'm now 50 pounds heavier and an inch shorter. But all of that to say, those charts it works for certain body types. I've never seen them broken down into body types. I've never had a tiny frame.
Yeah, no, you can't break it down by body type because I mean, I once saw it on a talk show that they would show different body types and say, ask them, is this person overweight or if they're not, and most people got it wrong. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's not the body shape. I mean, there's distribution of where it is, but I mean, they're going by mass, metrics.
Yes.
So,
Yes. And you're right about that, Barbara. Yes. Unoffendable. Moobs. There it is. Yeah. If I could, I keep seeing these ads coming up on social media that show how the exercises you're supposed to do to eliminate that. And of course, like Doug Stack knows so well. And like Scott Allen said in here not long ago when we were talking about stuff, he said, what was it? Did he say fat starts in the kitchen or eating right or not eating right? Good shape starts in the kitchen. And that's very true. I don't eat much differently than I used to, but I don't exercise like I used to either. Therefore, the stuff that used to convert to muscle mass now converts to fat.
Yeah, I mean, it's metabolism. Your metabolism slows down.
And of course, the older you get, the more aware of that you are.
Oh, yeah.
So, Field Guy says, I'm waiting for Grumpy Stack YouTube tips and videos on weight loss. He's got them, Field Guy. And hopefully Grumpy and I are going to start something here pretty soon together. Not going to happen
just
this
make your
month.
own group. We have your own support group and, do your exercises together, challenge each other,
And you'd think because Rainey is gluten-free and all that, and she minds what she eats, that we'd all be in great shape. She's in much better shape than I am. But she's also getting the mid-40s. And every woman who's had 3 children, she's got some of that going on. And,
gluten-free doesn't mean healthy. Gluten-free doesn't mean healthy because you're either going to be upping in the fat or the sugar or, to make up for the gluten,
And I only meant to say that in that she's aware of what she takes into her body as far as nutrition and stuff like that, what she needs to be doing. She just gave me these. She said I should take these tomorrow, these gummies. Not the same gummies as I had before, but these Daily Essentials Gem. It's, I don't know what all, vitamin D, calcium. It's like a general vitamin, I think.
Probably
and 7 nutrient-dense bites.
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
got a
So I mean, I would just
cacao
run that past your
flavor.
doctor and see, because especially with your heart issues, you need to be careful how much potassium and sodium you're taking in, all that stuff.
That's it. I'm going to take these into the doc tomorrow and say, can I take stuff like this?
Yeah.
Maybe take my gummies in, my other gummies. Can I take
Well, I mean,
these?
anything that you've had changes since you started having the symptoms. I mean, there's consideration.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
So
you have
I've
to be a
noticed
great
too,
detective. Yeah.
even though I didn't cough an awful lot during COVID, and you all heard it on the radio show, I'd
Yeah.
cough.
You were bad.
But I've noticed that when I first start talking, my voice is gravelier than it was 2 months ago. It always starts with having to clear my throat better. So
could be dehydration.
I'm still thinking I've got some of those, just some hangovers from COVID that might be affecting what's going on.
Could be a dehydration issue as well. So
could be. I drink a hell of a lot of this stuff.
How many of those do you drink?
Per day, maybe the equivalent of about 4 of these.
That, for you, that's not enough.
I should be drinking 14, I've heard, or something like that.
Not 14.
Doug Stack, he said he got home from a long, hard day the other day and drank 9 bottles of water. And
yeah,
so,
I mean, you can calculate the ounces. There's different people calculate it different ways, but I can, just from experience, I know 4 is not enough. Definitely not enough. So
yeah. Well, I drink coffee and I drink other stuff too. I drink
coffee's
water.
A diuretic
sometimes.
that'll drain you out even more. So
I'll just do. Coffee is water. It is the water of life.
It's a diuretic.
I want to hear that from you again.
Take water out of your body quicker from the caffeine. So,
and that's why I drink water.
Slowly. Try to increase it to 6 or something, because I know that when you first started,
I drink these big tumblers like this. I drink these big tumblers full of. These are full of water. This one has coffee still in from this morning, but I drink these full of water, 20 ounces, and then I put
I thought it looks bigger.
Yeah, and then I put. What did I just get on me? I put a little squirt of the flavors.
Yeah, I don't like those. If I said if you're gonna do that, you might as well have juice. I mean, why flavor water?
Well, that's what some people say, and I think it's not the same as juice. When I use a couple of squirts versus this is squeezed oranges from whole orange concentrate.
The amount of sugar is different. The fructose in there, you always have to watch out for that, because that'll spike you.
The problem is, if I was health minded as I am now, back 40 years ago, I'd probably be really healthy right now.
Yeah.
And I'd be built like Arnold. I would still have my muscles, even though I have moobs. So,
but I mean, consider it this way. With diabetes, that disease is reversible. I mean, if you lose, say you lose 40 pounds, you could essentially come off of all your diabetes stuff. And with diabetes, it cascades into your other systems. Yeah, it cascades to your heart. It cascades to your kidneys, liver,
to everything.
Yeah,
to everything.
So I mean,
and I also, Professor Bauer's coming in. I was just thinking of winding things up here, but we'll bring it in a second, Professor. What was I going to say about that? 17 years ago, when I met Rainey, and I've mentioned this before, I was biking every day and eating different, and I dropped my A1C and my diabetes. My doc at the time said, if I didn't know you had diabetes, I wouldn't know you had diabetes.
Right.
By all my blood work.
Come off all the meds. You can come off all the meds.
And I was off the meds at that time. Yeah. Hey, Professor, how you doing? We're only gonna go for a few more minutes, but how you doing? I'm glad you're here.
Yeah, I'm doing great. I heard all the discussion about the health issues and some of the remedies and stuff, and I wanted to just throw in my 25 cents worth. Having gone through a number of different cycles, which is the whole thing about getting old and having some of the different components, the different systems kind of they don't function as well as they used to, because they're older and you are older. And so you get these, a cacophony of different ailments that start showing up, pains here and there, spasms once in a while. I've had different times.
Spasms and weird muscles. So it's like, when did I use that muscle?
Right. I had a spasm on my right shoulder that would flutter once in a while, and then it would go away. and then a little bit later it'd come back, and then I wouldn't hear from it for a day or so. Then it would come back, and I'm like, "What is that?" The one thing that I would suggest is, at a minimum, making sure that you're getting as much protein as possible and hydration.
Protein and hydration.
Yep.
Yeah, because
That's pretty much it.
those two things will help most of the systems function better,
Wait,
more optimally.
Protein,
Captain
hydration,
Crunch,
and fiber.
Captain Crunch and Fruit Loops have protein. Right? They have all the 8 essential vitamins I need every day.
Well,
jest.
there's a trick when you
Well-
look at labels for fiber and stuff. So it's like if you look at the label and it gives you like the amount of fiber versus the amount of I think it's protein or carbohydrates or something. If the number is greater than 4, then you can subtract that, and that'll give you the plus number of protein that it's better for you. So yeah. So, I mean, there's always these dietitian tips and tricks, and you can get a consult with a dietitian really easily. So
I'm just speaking from my own personal experience when I was completely upside down on my health and the maintenance thereof. Not only protein and hydration, and if you can, in particular, an alkaline based water. When you know how the cells work on either a pH level, and it's either alkaline or it's acidic. The majority of malfunctioning systems and the intrusion of invaders that cause ailments they like acidic environments, whereas alkaline, they don't function as well, and they usually just go away because they can't function there. So that's one of the important aspects that I've learned from just the energy input that you take in. It's got to be protein, because that's the way our biology works. Water, because we're made up mostly of water, that we need a regular flush. And on the topic of flush, I can't emphasize enough how important, how more better fasting is.
More better.
Fasting.
More better what is?
Fasting.
Fasting.
he has to be careful because of
I've
the
seen a
diabetes.
lot about fasting.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
I fast, so I mean,
yeah, fasting's tougher for me. I'm going to go with, if I do anything to change my diet, I'm going with Grumpy Stack with Doug.
Yeah.
We've talked about this in the past, and we've got to get on some kind of a program that what we've got to do is make the mental shift, because there's cost to it. Obviously, you're still eating food, buying food and eating it. So we've got to just shift certain elements of the kind of food that we get and the program that we're on. I want to try that. He just said in here that he had one of his clients that went from 3 insulin shots a day to 0 in 4 months.
Yeah.
And now, like for
I've
me,
seen that happen. Yeah.
I have to technically I take 5 insulin shots a day.
Wow.
I have to take 1 in the morning, 1 at night of a certain kind.
Mm-hmm.
Then I have to take 1 before each meal, a minimum of 3.
Short acting.
Yeah.
Short acting insulin, and much less than,
Yeah.
I have to take like
Because
80.
Long acting is at working under a 12-hour period, and a short acting will only act under for 2-3 hours. Until it's gone
something
from
like
your
that.
system. So you have to balance it out.
And I'm so tired of I've been taking insulin shots for 15 plus years, and I'm so over it. And it's the pen.
I've seen a number of people who have had some type of diabetic condition and seen it literally go away with a keto diet.
Yeah,
keto, you have to be careful though.
You do have to be careful, but
diabetics do have to be careful about.
That's right. But I'm just saying, I've heard of people talk about how their entire the pancreatic problem, which is an imbalance of the system and the biochemistry of it, and so it's not reacting and
In the
doing
fat
its
roll,
job
Philip Blair.
as bad
Not the-
as it could. But there is a lot of just do a Google on keto and diabetes, and you'll see all kinds of stuff that people have said it worked. Now, it's not something I have as an empirical data set, but the people have had that and they've gone through it, and I got to tell you, when I've done keto, which is basically I do a carnivore diet for 1 month. I have
the carnivore diet. I've seen that.
Yeah, and I've done,
sent me.
and it's really nice. It's kind of expensive I have an affinity for ribeyes, so I would have a steak
I'm sure
every
your
day.
cholesterol loved that.
Oh my
I
God,
love meat.
Yeah, and that. So what you're doing is you're getting your protein from the meat.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are good, selective with good, you got good cuts at least. I mean, it's not doing hot dogs. You can do hamburgers if you get like a 90% lean, but you are really looking for chunks of meat, that you're taking off a bone, like a tomahawk steak.
Big, bloody, juicy
one of those
chunks of meat.
And aside from it being good for you, and it made a huge difference. Within 5 days, my energy level and my clarity of mind were just like, it was peaked. I got up and I went, holy shit, what's going on? And the whole month was like that. So again, that's my empirical data set that I have, because I've done that. And there is a lot of data and a lot of people that, because of what it is, it's essentially the quintessential protein source.
Yeah.
So you're not only getting protein, you're getting fiber as well, right?
Yeah.
So
Philip Blair says, like Joe Rogan and his elk meat.
Yeah, elk is
First time
incredible.
I had elk was at the Stanley Hotel in Estes Park, Colorado, and we had elk burgers.
Yeah,
which were just phenomenal over there.
Yeah, it's a leaner meat, so it's better than beef. So, yeah.
Up in
Laney just made
Pagosa,
some burgers the other day that were, now I'll get, what is it? What's the highest you can get? Something like 90% or 94% lean ground beef. I'll get some of that, and I'll do patties for the kids. And I like, just a couple weeks ago, I cut up shallots and I cook them. I cook them in butter. There, I've just defeated the whole purpose right there. But
butter is your friend.
No, butter.
No, butter is
your
your
friend.
friend, as well as salt. This whole
I'm seeing all these ads about butter in your coffee.
Butter and salt are your friends.
Greasy. But I cut up shallots. I bring them to, not glaze. What's the word when you cook them for a few minutes?
Saute.
No, there's another word. You're
based.
What?
Based.
When you grill them.
Hey.
Yeah, you just take a spoon and cover with butter while you
what's it called when you're glazing them? But it's not, the word is not glaze. Doesn't matter. You're sautéing them, glazing them, and then I would take the beef patty, and I'd put it right on top of the shallots.
Oh yeah,
and do the little press down.
Yeah, that's like a diner burger. Yeah,
a smash
like
burger.
The diners. Yeah.
And then flip them after it worked into the meat. Man, that stuff was good. But Rainey made burgers 2 days ago. They were store-bought, pre-done, lean meat, pre-shaped. She threw those on, and I got to tell you, those were really tasty. And I was like, oh my God, I could eat 4 of those. And
I got to tell you, it's my own personal experience on the carnivore is really, really positive. Joints, aches, those muscle spasms and stuff, all that stuff's just started kind of going away. And I forgot it was there because I had enough energy and felt good enough to go do the shit I needed to get done that I couldn't with all this other stuff going on. So I highly recommend it.
Like Grumpy Stack is saying in the chat room, that's the program I'm on is not considered a diet. It's lifestyle change and education.
Yeah.
That's it. You can't just go on a diet and go, I'm going to do this diet. And then when I achieve my goal, I can go back to eating whatever I was eating before. I think Grumpy is offering up, and what I've been talking to him about is this whole lifestyle change in eating. And of course, that's mentality. You got to be into that mentality. It's like, if I start this ain't a try it and throw it away, because then I'll just be right back to where I started. This is whether or not I'm going to adopt that lifestyle change to do it. And,
one of the things that happened for me along those lines is I've done 3 fasts in particular in the last couple of months, 2 3-day and a 5-day. And what's interesting is as you drop the excess that you have, you know, everything gets a little bit smaller. So in my 1 meal a day, my intermittent fasting between those big fasts, I eat only to when I'm full, because as soon as I'm full, then my mind goes, I want to feel full. I don't want to feel packed. And that's part
You
of
know
the
what my
mindset.
problem is?
Yeah, well,
with
that's
eating?
part of the
It's like-
mindset that I know I live with. I ate, if it was there, and I was raised by Midwestern, you know, folk, you had a plate that could feed 4 people, and you were expected to clear it
Right.
and load it up again.
Right. I
mean-
I eat, and I notice this even now. I'll be eating something. When Rainey made those burgers, I was like, I'm gonna have another one of those. And I had another one, and I'm eating it, and and I did it without a bun or without a tomato or anything like that on it. I just ate the meat, and I still thought, you know, I'm eating this because I really like the flavor.
Mhm.
When I overeat,
It's all about the tongue,
it's
baby.
because I enjoy what I'm eating, not because I
Right.
like, oh, I'm just driven like, you know, my 600-pound life. I've got to eat, you know, 2 pizzas and 5 burgers for dinner. I don't do that. I eat because I love the taste and I love the sensation of the flavors. And that's when I overeat. So, and sometimes it's weird stuff. I can overeat with a peanut butter and jelly sandwich because you know, one of my comfort foods, my absolute comfort foods through my adult life has been white Wonder Bread, squishy white Wonder Bread with strawberry preserves and peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And I
Yeah.
want a psychologist asked me, so why do you revert to childhood foods for your comfort? What do you think is behind that, Scotty? And I'm like, you know, don't talk to me like a psychologist. I don't care. I like it. That's what's behind it.
Well, I mean, it's coping mechanism,
So-
and with satiety, it's part chemical and part psychological. So I mean,
Sure.
otherwise, you know, your doctor may start you up on, a once a week shot like Trulicity or Ozempic or something to help deal with this hunger and satiety.
Oh my God. Have you seen the commercials for all? I mean, ever since the pandemic has basically gone away from its original non-existence, all of the pharmaceuticals companies are pumping out new stuff.
Ads
Oh, yeah.
all over the
I've
place.
heard of ailments that I've heard of combination ailments that I've had individually and separately, but never all at once, packaged into a problem. And I went,
And you know what I
wait a
love?
minute.
When you hear those pharmaceutical ads on the radio, and at the end, they squeeze about 2 minutes of speaking into 15 seconds. It's like, and don't take this pharmaceutical to get pregnant. If you're pregnant, if you got
Right.
and,
Yeah.
and if you're driving a
I
car,
don't
if you're
agree with
flying
that.
in the air,
They
and if
should
you-
not be gearing those ads to people. That should really be in the hands of the doctor. What they want is people to go say, "Hey, I saw this on TV. Do you think I should try it?" You know, it's that.
Well,
Right.
literally every one of them starts off with ask your doctor if collision
Ask
in
your
your
doctor
mind
if
is good
you
for
can
you,
take this.
right? I mean,
By the
it's
way, there it is, David Otness. Caramelized.
caramelized.
That was the word I was looking for. Why was that escaping my frail, feeble brain?
That doesn't sound like the technique you were talking about to me. But I mean,
Yeah, it's where you saute in the butter, but you let it cook enough that it caramelizes a bit.
yeah, it causes Maillard
And,
reaction. Yeah.
I think I just sauteed my shallots. I did not
Right.
caramelize these.
Yeah, well, you can also just take an onion and put it in the blender and just mix that into the meat. That makes it soft as well. A regular onion.
Well,
half
there's
onion.
that,
Yeah.
but then it's not fried onions. It's like when I used to work in an office, you could always tell the people who went out to lunch and had onions. You know, even some of the prettiest people in the office to the sloppiest people in the office, you could tell. Oh, you had a burger with an onion, didn't you? Caramelized. I would have them sautéed so I didn't have so much of the onion afterglow.
Yeah, but just remember,
and I'm not
caramelizing means
into-
sugar. There's onions have sugar in them.
That's the problem. You're
yeah,
cooking.
that's why it tastes good. Everything
same
tastes
with
good. You're not supposed
sautéed
to
with
have.
butter. Sauteed with butter tastes better than raw onions to me. Now, the only time I will ever do raw onions, I got this from my grandfather when I was in like high school or junior high. He made us chili dogs once
Oh,
at
yeah.
his house. And the way he
those are
eats
awesome.
chili dogs, he would take like a whole white onion and chop it up into little squares and sprinkle it on his hot dog.
Oh yeah, I love
And he
that. I
gave
mean,
that to
raw
me, and I'm like,
onions with barbecue.
oh
I
my
love that.
God,
Yeah.
what have you fed
Shredded
me?
cheese, diced onions,
Shredded cheese, diced onions,
smother it all over,
a
get it
scallop
everywhere.
here and there, and all on top of your hot dog.
Right.
So, I can make a hot dog and put it on a bun like a ballpark hot dog. It's gone in 8 seconds. It's like chomp, chomp, and you're out of hot dog. It's like, well,
So I mean, how many
that was
bites
not
would you
satisfying.
have to need to cause satiety? That would give you satiety. That you were craving something. How many bites would you need to say, okay, I've satisfied that craving? 4 or 5?
Yes.
Yeah. So there you go.
Yeah. Yeah, it would take 5 hot dogs to satisfy my craving. And I've done that. I've made a couple of hot dogs. The kids want hot dogs. Okay, I'll have a couple of hot dogs, and I put them on buns. And I'll do things. Sometimes I do chili dogs, and I'll put just homemade it. I get a can of Hormel. You warm it up, and you put a little chili on the hot dog, and maybe a little squeeze of sweet onion mustard or something like that, and it's good. And you eat that, and you go, man.
All right, how about we
more of those?
how about we end with a little either or?
Okay.
Okay. All right.
Let's do it.
So, hot dog or hamburger?
Hamburger.
Yeah, burger.
Hamburger.
Mm-hmm.
Popcorn or Cheez-Its?
Cheez-Its for me.
Cheez-Its. Popcorn's good, but I like Cheez-Its.
I make my own, so I mean,
you make your own Cheez-Its?
I have done that and popcorn. Try to make it healthier. So I mean, popcorn's easy. I can do that.
What do you like? Grow the corn in the backyard?
Not for the corn in the back, but I mean, just in a pot. You just
so I've never done that, huh?
It's super easy. You can even take it from the bag. It's cheaper too. You just get
you're talking about just making it the old-fashioned way. When I was a kid, we used to have to take a pot. You put about that much cooking oil in the bottom.
No, you don't need that much. You just need 2 tablespoons.
No, all you needed was a Jiffy Pop. Right?
No,
you remember
you
buy
one
of the big silver head. It's like the nuclear Jiffy Pop.
Space alien,
You just fire that bad boy up.
And they advertised that. When they advertised that on TV in the 60s and the 70s, that was the greatest thing. That's all kids. Oh, get us Jiffy Pop popcorn, Mom, so we can watch it. And you all stand around the stove because you had to hold it over the stove, and you watch that thing expand.
Watch that thing grow, yeah.
Payload.
Okay, how about potato chips? I'm sorry, sour cream and onion chips or Doritos?
Well, that depends on my mood. I probably have both. So.
Yeah, we got both.
That was too close. All right, chocolate pie or chocolate cake?
Chocolate cake for me.
Neither. I prefer salt. I like salt.
You prefer what?
Salt. Savory.
Salt.
Savory.
Okay.
Oh. What's your favorite kind of cake?
I think the best cake ever was a Mountain Dew cake. But it's a southern thing. It's a southern thing.
That coming.
Good though. Mountain Dew cake.
All right.
Let's see.
Ham.
Go ahead.
Good. Ham or turkey?
I have to be turkey. I can't eat ham. So.
Oh,
that's right.
So bad for you.
I didn't think about that.
I love ham, but
ham is my favorite. I dumped turkey a long time ago.
Sandwich, we've got both up in the fridge now. Sliced ham and sliced turkey. I'll always go for the sliced ham first. I'll do sliced ham. I'll put a slice of cheese on it and cut up a
put
tomato.
It on a salad. Mm-hmm.
Put lettuce on it. I've diced up ham for, like, if I need ham for soup that I'm making, and all we got's the lunch meat, I'll just dice up the lunch meat.
Like a hash.
Throw it all in there.
There's a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
All right, we'll switch it up here. East Coast or West Coast?
For what?
East Coast for me.
To be.
To the live?
If you're going to be at either one, which would you prefer?
Well, I've been to both, but I still prefer East Coast.
I like the
And-
East Coast for the history and the place. It all depends on where it is. West Coast, I'd do for the scenery. East Coast, I'd do for
West Coast
because
is too
there's
expensive
culture
and
and
pretentious.
yeah.
All right, fly or train, airplane or train.
It depends how far I'm going.
Depends on what kind of ambiance I want. If I want to get there fast, if I want to be there this afternoon, I fly. If I don't care, and I have a romantic interlude on the terrain, I will take the train.
What is that called? The track club as opposed to the mile high?
Yeah. The 5 mile track club.
Okay. Mountain lake, or ocean?
Lake for me.
Lake. I love the ocean, but I like a tranquil lake too. So
All right. House in the woods or an incredible penthouse in downtown?
house in the woods, definitely. But
Yeah, woods.
I almost did a penthouse in the downtown of Minneapolis once. So long time ago.
All right. So the last one, fudgesicle or creamsicle?
Creamsicle.
Probably fudgesicle.
You're talking about the orange creamsicles, right?
Remember the orange creamsicle? Remember the push-ups?
And they were in
Oh
toilet
yeah, the
paper rolls.
Flintstones push-ups.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love those
They
push-ups.
came in toilet paper rolls that were printed.
Exactly. Which we turned into pipes to make bowls so we could smoke our weed. So we'd eat ice cream and then we'd cut it out. It's like, oh, dude, we got a pipe here.
You know, I was thinking of that when I was going over some of those Bible verses earlier today. Ezekiel, saw the wheel and there was a man with a man's face, but he also had a lion's face and a bear's face and an eagle head, and his wings spread out, and the wheel turned within the wheel around him. Excuse me a second. And then next we saw the platform that looked like, that's what I thought. It was like, okay, Ezekiel, really? What kind of ayahuasca do they have in Babylon?
Yeah, what did they
wonder about that? Is all God induced, or was it drug induced? Was it helpful?
Well, I mean, you have to remember there were even more bizarre forms of revelation. I mean, John was considered the most sanest of one from all the different prophets. They had their own visions of revelation and stuff where we're supposedly even more way out there that they said, okay, that's going to be apocryphal. It's not going to.
You just kind of wondered. He was obviously a student of Hebrew literature. He was a disciple of Jesus, and he writes this stuff in his old age. And he's like, "What can I do to top Ezekiel?"
Keep in mind that just like back in the and this has happened as man has evolved and figured out all these wonderful libations and concoctions they can create, which includes ayahuasca, which is really, how in the world did they come up with combining these plants to get to that DMT?
Yeah, how did you get to that point? How many people died making ayahuasca happen?
100,000 species, and they figured that out. I'm thinking they got some help. And the point to them getting help is, I think, that just like the entire cannabis species, which includes hemp and
was it you that said to me the other day, or did I hear this from somewhere else? Like Pharaoh building his monuments. What were the thing? People go, well, how did people do that? And he said those people back then had two things we don't have. Number one, nothing else to do, and number two, an unlimited workforce.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they had to farm to live and so on. But what did Pharaoh do when he says, "I want this vast monument. It's going to take you the next 26 years to build it, to remember me by after I die. And I'm going to hire this whole village to do this." And you got 20,000 people over 26
hire or
years
conquer.
building
It's conquered. They're expanding.
So, they had to. I don't think that was you. I heard that somewhere else.
Yeah, I don't recall
That
that.
doesn't sound like me at all.
And I'm not sure what the hell it has to do with what I'm talking about. But anyway, that note,
I'm talking about how much time it took them to figure out which plant was weed.
Oh,
well, it's like
the thing is that experimentation apparently goes back at least tens of thousands of years.
Yeah.
Because they're, it's just like the famed, what's being referred to as the man bag, that all of the Sumerians and Babylonians, and they've even found it at Göbekli Tepe, and it's like, and in Central America, they're all carrying these bags. And I'm thinking, one of the things that is most probable is that each one of these cultures had different things that they used for intoxicants, if you want to use a broad category, right? Everything from some kind of mead, and or some kind of drink that caused intoxication, all the way to the plants and cannabis and everything else.
Vapors. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, or Oracle of Delphi. Getting vapors and seeing stuff, right? So I really think that there's that aspect of what we know of history and the events within history is not appreciated as much as it probably should be. I think that there has been even Genghis Khan, there's stories about they would give a particular psychoactive compound that they made to the warriors, who would then just turn them into animals.
Berserkers.
And it's like, we know that works, right?
I just saw a documentary just today. It was playing in the background while I was doing stuff on Tamerlane, Ottoman Turk in the 1400s. And the stuff he did, he would do things like he had this big thing about heads, and he would line his walls. He would build his walls out of human heads and stuff like that. And he was one of the greatest Ottoman Turk leaders, considered an amazing military strategist.
Mm-hmm.
And yet there was one point where even his own army, he gave his soldiers a bounty. Everybody's got to come back with 2 heads. And they're like, even the soldiers didn't like doing it. They would buy it off of some of the soldiers who were like, I got 7 heads today. I'll sell 4 of them. And it's like, I'll buy 2 of those, so they didn't have to go kill people. But yet he was this great, imposing leader. If you look him up, Tembur, and 1400s, Ottoman Turks. And you wonder, when somebody has a fixation on heads like that, and he sends even his army out to get them, and he used them for intimidation and so on, what's he doing in his spare time? Is he smoking something? Is he on some really kind of weird trip all the time? I don't know what's going on with him.
Could be ritualistic practice.
Exactly.
Ritualistic.
It's ritualistic, and it was a part of, in fact, what made me think about it, that I was trying to get to, was back around 1510, somewhere around in there, over in France. I can't think of who was in charge at the time, but they had to enact a law that changed the way that beer was being made, because up until that time, for several hundred years and in different places, it was not only hops and barley and fermentation, but they also threw mushrooms in. And these guys were getting mushroom beer. Okay.
Interesting.
Exactly. And the reason they had to enact this law was people were getting out of hand. They were not keeping their shit together. They were getting all mushroomed and alcoholed out, and they were causing all kinds of trouble. So the king had to make, from that point forward, beer cannot contain mushrooms. I mean, you can imagine all that.
There's several times in terms of spirits, like wormwood and absinthe and all those types of stuff. So I mean, it's ongoing.
Thank you, Iowa X. Biden, in his speech tonight, offered $10,000 extra in student loan forgiveness for each MAGA head. I can see that.
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Right?
How close are we to that?
I mean, the stuff that's going on there is just
It's ridiculous.
it's sad, but what's really amazing is the entertainment value is extremely high
I know.
because there isn't a single. It's gotten to the point where it's not a single word, it's not a single action, it's not a single
excuse me.
movement. It's all just like a big cartoon that somebody's playing on the screen, and you're going, I'm sorry, what was this? Who's running this? What is going on?
We're like
So-
God's reality show. I mean, we're like the Kardashians at this point.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, you're exactly right. This is like the world's
Meet the
biggest
Bidens.
reality show, and we're in it.
Yeah. So I really do hope November does something to change things around a little bit, to shift the emphasis of power. We need something. Oh my God. I don't even want to talk about it because it's 11 o'clock. Guys, we're going to get out of here. I got to go to sleep. And
Check into the carnivore diet. Check into.
I got the book. I bought the book a couple of months
Yes.
ago on advice of my my literary agent. Said you got to try this.
Highly
So-
recommended. You know, balance it to your needs, but you'll find plenty of information about people who have done that, and you can hear what they did.
Yeah, I mean,
I will do that.
Yeah, especially with the other stuff. I mean, this may work for him, but just don't get discouraged if it doesn't work.
Right.
For you. I mean, everybody's body's different, and you know, I've seen this story play out 50 million times. You know, some things work for some people. You just have to try it.
I always used to be a guy. I've struggled with weight my whole life,
right,
up and down kind of thing. I mean, we're talking, not obesity. We're talking like obese, grotesquely overweight. Always struggled with being either 20 pounds too heavy or being in shape, and always back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And but I would always find that I had the type of body and metabolism that I would start exercising. I could, if I wanted to lose 20 pounds, I said I can have that off in 2 weeks without doing anything extreme. I just need to exercise and eat better. And I did it. You know, I lost, what was it? I went from 283 down to 205 in the 3 months before I met Rainey. I just started biking, and I did it. It happened in 3 months. Just biking and eating better. Not doing anything extreme. So metabolism, but of course,
it's motivation.
I was a young man of 43 and 44 back then.
No, I mean, but you can raise your metabolism back up. I mean, you just have to get yourself in the mental state and motivated.
There it is.
I mean, you have to consider your kids too. You know,
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
So I got this big Nordic Trek sitting right there. Anybody got a pickup truck and you want to come and move that for me? I would greatly appreciate it.
Well, the one thing
call it an expensive washing, hanging the wash on. So,
the one thing I'll say about, you know, the difference between, you know, the vegetarian thing, I've done that. It's just, it's not enough protein. But when I did try vegan, you know, going vegan, vega, whatever it is now, I found out that all of it tastes great with bacon.
Oh, it's all great with bacon. I just saw somebody put up a meme, and they said, my doctor said I need to eat more fish. I need to have more fish in my diet. And he's got
that's, you know, the omega-3,
5
that's for
big
the
fat
mental,
strips
you
of
know,
bacon
that's
cut
for
in
the
fish shapes.
right.
So
Goldfish.
now,
fry.
by the way, my Nordic Track, it's the commercial 1750. It says on the side. My daughters bought that for me about a year and a half ago. And they said, Dad, we both got one of these. If you want one of these and you will use it, we'll buy it for you. I said, I'll use it. So they sent it. And it's one of those, it's the big, and it folds up, you know, into this big thing that sits right alongside my desk here. But a big wide track on it, and it's got the computer screen that you can go anywhere in the world. I go hiking around the pyramids. I went up into the Highlands in Scotland and ran around for a while. You can do it without a guide. You can have a trainer that takes you up there. The guy that they had as the trainer in the Scottish ones, the guy that was in the show Outlander, the bald guy with the big white mustache, and you know, McTavish, I think is his last name or something. And he took you hiking through the Highlands. And or you can get just gym trainers, the little, come on, let's go, everybody, and they like weigh
They're
about
overly
86
peppy.
pounds
Yeah.
of pure muscle, and come on, get your go on today. It's like, fuck off. But
They're channeling Richard
yeah.
Simmons.
So I prefer the trainer that's like, I'm going to talk to you about these pyramids while we walk through the Giza Plateau. And it's like, okay, that I can handle.
Yeah.
So, and the other one was cool. If you set the thing to go with the trainer, and I've been in this tomb in the Valley of the Kings. I think it was Ramses VI. His tomb has these big, broad hallways with squared off ceiling. And I don't know if I don't think they originally had steps. They've built the wooden steps, of course, in modern day. But it's all lit up now. But it was painted, ceiling and all the walls, all the way down. It would go down the shaft, and it would level and shaft,
Right.
and level and shaft
Interval
and level.
training. Mm-hmm.
And you'd get all the way down to the bottom. And it was like, wow, this is cool. And when I was there for real back in like 2013 or 2014, went all the way to the bottom of that. And you go, wow, this is cool. And you turn around, you go, shit.
Now you have to get back
all the way
up.
back up out of this. And, it's like, what, 200 yards of, or 100 yards of shaft. And thank goodness there's stairs. But on the trainer, on the Nordic track, he takes you down in there. And then when you turn to go up, the computer simulates the hill.
Mm-hmm.
It elevates and it slows down. And you got to work harder to climb the
Right.
stairs.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, blah blah blah. We got to get out of here.
So same thing for tomorrow, or
same thing for tomorrow. Same topic.
okay?
I've got a little
I'm not
more
sure where else to
information.
go as far as
It's a harder topic to dig up. There's a guy who wrote a book that I might just pick up his book so I can reference it. I had him on the show years ago. I think it's Michael S. Carter. I want to say was his name. I believe he's a former pastor, but he's been on like all the shows and coast to coast. Very nice gentleman. I'd like to get him on the show again. He was on with John Ward and I when we were doing Intrepid Radio 7 years ago. But he wrote a book about the Bible and aliens and how clear it is. And he's not a weirdo, which is nice. Excuse me. So I might look up some things out of his book or see if I can get him on again in the near future.
I'll try to pull some references for different cultures.
There you go.
Yeah.
Let's do it. All right, guys. You have a good night, Sarah.
All
have a
right,
good
thanks,
night.
guys.
I'll talk to you tomorrow. Have a good day.
Good night, Sarah.
And see you too, Doc. Prof.
I am. Yes, I wanted to talk about the alien thing, but I'm got some other stuff. In fact, I've been doing some work while
Maybe tomorrow.
we've been talking. But we
Let's
got
get it
to. There's a whole frequency set of dudes and peeps out there that I think we just need to kind of check them out and see if they're ready to.
Let's talk about it tomorrow night.
Let's go poke on them.
Let's go poke on them.
Do a little
and get their
CE5 a la Stephen Greer.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. So,
all right, my friend.
I was going to bring something up as I brought you on, or as I let Sarah go, and I was going to say, I was going to tell you. Now I can't remember what the hell it was. It seemed pertinent enough to want to mention it. Now I can't think of what it was. It was like something revealing. It was like, okay, I'm going to tell you guys this now, but now I can't remember what the hell that was. Another day. It's gone from the thing. It's gone from me.
It'll
All right.
drop back in.
I know what it was because I called you Doc.
Yeah.
I am now a doctor.
Really?
I had a conferred degree, not one I purchased, a conferred degree from a little school. It's a, I can't even think of the name. I'm doing work for them. And it's a divinity degree. So a DD. And it's not like a PhD. I can't put it behind my name on a book and let people know, well, and I know all this information because I have a PhD. It's not a PhD. But now you can legally, and it was not purchased, so it's not like I've acquired this thing so I can just be called a doctor. There was no research involved, but it's based on all my past studies and my divinity school stuff and all that. They conferred a doctorate upon me. So I have
Nice.
a conferred doctorate now. So I am now technically Dr. Scotty.
Dr. Roberts. Hey,
Yes.
I like that. You know, on just on that note of being ordained or having something, during my ministry, I never became ordained, so I never became a priest.
Yeah,
But
I was never ordained either.
About 10 years ago, I became a dudist priest, and I have
Dudist?
I have an official certificate that I am a priest of dudism.
Nice. I got to get me one of those.
Yeah, they're nice.
I purchased so the ability. My daughter wanted me to officiate her wedding 3 years ago, and she said, "You're ordained, right, Dad?" I said, "No, I never went through ordination." And so she said, "Can you get one of those?" So I bought it. I bought an ordination so I can legally marry my kid. And so I've got one of those. I've got a certificate of ordination that qualifies me as being legal in the United States to marry. And I don't remember what you could choose. It was a drop-down list. What church would you like to be affiliated with? Or something like that. I don't remember what I chose.
Aren't we
Pagan or
lucky
something
that people in our litigious society, aren't we lucky that there doesn't seem to be any interest in going after the people when marriages fall apart, going after the priests or the whoever gave them the Ohio Gazimus and said, "Now go forth and be happy and multiply." Nobody comes after that dude.
I know.
Right? I mean, why not? I mean,
well,
I'm glad they don't, but it seems to me it's an easy target for a lot of people to go, "I'm going to blame them. Let's go after them."
Right. And thank you, by the way, Elderberry. Doc Roberts. I'll be your
Doc Roberts. There you go.
Doc Roberts. I'm going to be the fast draw.
We should do a show. I when I was doing my radio shows, the show was called Between the Ears, and I was the host, Dr. B.
Nice.
So we could do a Dr. B, Dr. Roberts show.
There it is. Doc and Doc. I had coincidentally, I had an old client back in the 90s. They had a T-shirt design company, and the label, it was "Your head goes here." I thought when you said between the ears. So,
very nice.
All right,
let's
get out of here.
All right, brother.
Amanda
Peace.
Berry, welcome to the show. We got to go, but be
Have
here
a great
tomorrow
evening.
night on time and participate. Good to see you. Good to see everybody. Thanks for being here, Doc. Prof, I'm going to let you go. And I'll talk to you tomorrow night. All right, guys. Thanks everybody for being here. I appreciate your time and all that good stuff, all that good juju. And as for me, I'm tired. I'm going to bed, even though it's only 11 o'clock. So you all have a good night and live long and prosper.